let's focus a little bit on technology and solutions aspect. You started to get into that, Mo, yourself. So the next question is certain technologies or solutions. Is there room for innovation here?
Yeah, so right off the bat, we saw a real increase in our remote access gateways, things like VPN appliances, things like that. So we immediately saw an uptick in that, which in conjunction with that, we're asking the customers, what other needs do you have? We know you're asking for these remote access gateways, but what's going on? And immediately they were turning to things like, well, obviously we're doing these web meetings, we're sharing things. And so we've seen a real increase in perspective development because of its web nature. Whereas before we had a lot of vision clients on the floor and things like that were traditional, working great. But now you have more people, as Fransisco and Rob alluded to, and Titus has alluded to, they need the information, but they need it in a way that's easier to manage. And with perspective, the web development's made it much easier. So we've taken the opportunity to do, like Titus has said, upgrades on systems to 8.0 that had been held off. Because you're not doing the project work on the plant floor, they've shifted finances to things like enterprise systems and taking plant floor data to an enterprise-based version. So MQTT, getting data quickly with a compressed packet level, making that a fluid transfer of data, and then web-based opportunities with perspective and getting upgrades that had been held off, like Titus had mentioned. They're coming to fruition now because they need to see the data differently, and you have new users that use the technology differently. So web-based atmosphere is much more user-friendly to them. So definitely room and innovation in that space.
Cool. Titus?
Yeah, I think Mo covered it pretty well there with what on the technical side. I would say on the solution side, one trend we're seeing is the willingness of clients to do remote commissioning and startup, which is so our guys will help their staff through the checking of I/O and connections, network connections, and that sort of thing, and then we're remoted in and actually testing everything with them as their eyes and ears. And in this environment, it solves a lot of problems from the health compliance standpoint, from travel and access to the facilities, and preventing the potential risk of spreading COVID. But it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward, because it's another way to reduce costs on these systems. Travel expenses and the time on site can be very expensive. So we're so far so good. It's working pretty well. And yeah, like I said, I think Mo, you covered it pretty well with what ADO and Perspective and Enterprise Solutions can do for our customers out there.
Sure. So totally appreciate that, Titus. Fransisco, when we were doing the dry run on this, you made a couple of comments about SAP integration. Do you want to chime in a couple of comments on that here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have definitely seen an increase and a subtle change on the requests from the customers on ERP integration in general. But of course, SAP is one of the most widely used, so the requests have increased in that sense. But the subtle change that has happened is that we usually had the SAP as the purpose of a project, like send information to the ERP for the company to share. But considering the times and the costs that sometimes changing the ERP incurs, nowadays the change is that it's not just for the plant floor to be connected to the ERP, but also for the middleware, in this case the Perspective application or the platform, to be able to bring information from the plant, bring information from the SAP, compile it, and display it for the appropriate customer. So that has changed a little bit, because it's not like just connecting. It's nowadays is connecting and having the information for whoever needs it.
Thanks, Fransisco. I know, Rob, you had some discussions and comments even on our dry run about changes in architectures and some evolution on that. Do you want to maybe wrap up this question for us with a couple comments in that area?
Yeah, so one name, MQTT. So we saw a big spike in request on connecting equipments through MQTT especially in the ignition platform, because and also with spark plug, as it has become so easy, it's more common. It's probably also, but that's not real research, but I think from, I would say, the brilliant maker version of ignition, which helps a lot of people to start with all kinds of initiatives at home. And you see, especially with consumers in the private world and the developers, they love MQTT. There's a lot of resources to find. You can hook up your lighting system in your home, and that helps. It makes it familiar. It makes a demand for spark plug because it's so easy to integrate. Yeah, that was striking, I think, from the current times that we are in.
Sure.
Hey, Don, this is Wright. I just want to throw in two super quick things there on that subject. We're building on what Titus said about remote commissioning. We're also seeing remote FAT tests with an entire virtualized architecture of what the customer wants to deploy, and that's a big development, and I think that will persist after COVID. The other one is enterprise IT and OT convergence that's really driven by management's need for truly normalized information about their operations. So that's another change that's just really coming on like a freight train. So